While I was gone on my trip, we actually got reports that Apple had been considering removing the Lightning port on the 2017 iPhone X. Yes, the first phone to have Qi charging. They considered removing the port for just that reason. This makes a lot of people have a lot of questions, a lot of concerns that I don't even necessarily think you're wrong for having. But today I'm going to be trying to explain Apple's reasoning as to why the port may be gone on the next iPhone. It's not rumored to happen this year. We don't have any reports that the 10 Plus, the 6.1-inch LCD are going to be ditching the Lightning port. But what do I always say when people ask me, Drew, how long before Apple removes the last charging port, the last port at all on iPhones? And I always say, it's going to happen sooner than you think. Be ready for it. Try to anticipate it. That way the conversion process is not that annoying, it's not that frustrating because you challenged yourself. I, to this day, am still doing the Portless challenge, which means I have never plugged anything into my iPhone X. Battery health on it is still in the 90s. I've used it since launch day, and there have definitely been some awkward situations in which having to have a Qi charger brought with me everywhere is a tad bit more annoying than just having a lightning cable. But if we look at Apple's history of removing ports, most often when people think it's too early, it really makes sense to anticipate this, because if Apple believed that ports and charging methods were here to stay on iPhones, why wouldn't they adopt USB-C? We all agree that's the last port. That port can do the most. Why haven't they adopted USB-C yet? Because they're about to ditch Lightning anyway. To Apple, the future standard for smartphones is Qi. So a lot of questions immediately pop up when people hear about there being no possible port. How do I sync my phone via iTunes? What if I need to do a hard reset? What if I want to use my phone while it is charging? Wired charging is faster. There's fast charging options with the Lightning port. Wireless charging is not as fast. And while I hear all those concerns, Apple is definitely going to ask their user base to change the way they use their phones. And while these may not be the alternatives you prefer, Apple is checking off the list and saying there's enough alternatives that we can make our phone more uniform. We can put more things in our iPhone. This might even help with water resistance even more than it already has. But for one, Apple's going to encourage all of your downloads, all of your iTunes movies or music. All that is now going to be synced over the cloud. You'll sign into your Apple ID or you'll use Apple Music, and that method of syncing your iPhone via iTunes, even if you have a PC, is going to become a thing of the past. Apple's going to be phasing that out and saying, no, we don't want you using iTunes. No, we don't want you downloading music and syncing it to your iPhone the old-fashioned way. The cloud is the future. You're going to download that way. This makes more sense to them from a business point of view because they can get more people on Apple Music. They can get more people to get the iCloud music library set up, and it actually makes putting pirated music on your phone a lot harder, which in Apple's case is a good thing. To many consumers is a bad thing. But either way, that old method of syncing music, pictures, movies is no longer going to be available. Similarly, people want to back up their phones and have a hard copy on iTunes of their phone in case something goes wrong with it. They want to restore it from a backup. This will also be entirely replaced by iCloud backup. Apple wants you to use their servers and their storage so that you can pay more for larger storage plans, and basically when you place your portless iPhone on a Qi charger at night, it will back up a copy of itself, and they think that is more seamless. That will be easier for you, and having hard copy backups will become a thing of the past. They're just going to say, nope, you don't do that anymore. You do it our way. To the next comment about people saying I like to use my phone while it is charging, my hope is that the removal of the Lightning port will allow for a larger battery. Hopefully with these new CPUs and larger iPhones we're getting this year, battery lives in iPhones are going to be getting a lot better in the upcoming years. Apple's going to decide we want our batteries to be so good, or we want you to buy enough Qi chargers that they're all over the place. You don't have to use your phone while it's charging. As I have experienced, having 2 or 3 Qi chargers at the places you work or hang out at the most can be pretty convenient. I have one on my desk, one on my nightstand, and wherever I am, I can usually drop it on that. And other than my desk, because it's kind of mounted towards me, I get to use my phone there. No, I don't get to charge my phone with a lightning cable and use it elsewhere. I understand why a lot of you may like that, especially in airports. If you quickly need a charge, removing that port is going to become very inconvenient for a lot of you. I understand, but in the long run, future customers and future audiences are going to get accustomed to not where can I find the wall outlet, and instead where can I find the nearest Qi charger. We've all done it the same way for a long time, so our process of switching to a Qi supported world is going to be frustrating because charging can be slower. You're right, you have to carry around a Qi pad and a wall outlet, but for future generations who are not going to be used to having that, they will get used to this very quickly. And as we've already seen, more and more places around the world are supporting Qi chargers in public places and in restaurants and coffee shops. It will just become something that's so ordinary. Wherever you go, you'll be able to drop your phone, still be using it, but but also be charging it. This also begs the question, is Apple going to include a Qi charger and AirPods if they do ditch the lightning port? I personally would be upset if they said, okay, no more ports on the iPhone, so now you don't get headphones with the purchase of a $1,000 product. And do they include a cheap Qi charger with it, or do they stop including chargers altogether? Probably not. I don't think Apple would go that far. So the idea here is that your battery life will be good enough, your phone will be efficient enough that you won't need to use it while it is charging. It's gonna last you throughout the day. You'll be able to drop it on a Qi charger before you go to bed. It'll be at 100 and still last you throughout the day. And we'll probably still see the growth of a lot of Qi supported battery banks, which I still use because I often, like you guys, will be doing stuff throughout the day. I'm using my phone a lot. My phone needs to be charged. So I carry around this battery bank that supports Qi, which I actually find a bit more convenient than a regular battery bank, because regular battery banks, you have to, of course, have the charger itself, then get a cable, plug it in to the battery pack and into your phone, and then you have this giant 3-foot wire hanging around while your phone is being charged. What I like about my Qi supported battery bank is I don't need a wire. I simply turn on the battery bank, slap my iPhone onto it, and now it's charging. It takes up less space. I can hold the battery pack on the back while I'm using my phone, so it's still charging, but there's no wires necessary, makes traveling around easier. And while this is made by very small companies right now, I think if Apple starts removing ports, the success of Qi supported battery packs will become a lot more popular. And similar to my arguments about the removal of the headphone jack, Apple is not removing the charge port because wireless is faster. Apple's full of engineers. They know that inductive charging is not as fast as a hardline fast charger, but their mindset is the only way to get fast charging on the inductive method is to force people to adapt to it. As long as Apple keeps the lightning port on the iPhone, there's never going to be that much of a push to get Qi better, to get inductive charging faster. But if there isn't one, third parties are all going to start adapting it. Apple's going to work harder on making fast wireless charging even faster than it is. And even though inductive you probably never will get as fast as possible with a regular cable and a fast charger, sadly, if we look throughout history, convenience always trumps quality. As in, Ethernet connection to your iMac or MacBook is always going to be a more stable, faster internet connection than Wi-Fi, but we don't like running wires everywhere. So Wi-Fi, because it's good enough, while a Wi-Fi connection is not as good as Ethernet, it's decent enough that we can make all types of products these days that don't have Ethernet ports on them, because we all decided Wi-Fi has consistent enough quality that we can design devices that don't have Ethernet ports anymore. Between laptops, smartphones, tablets, Apple Watches, we're like, yeah, Wi-Fi's good enough. I see that similarly with the lightning port. Qi charging is never going to be as fast as a traditional cable, you're right. However, Qi charging will be fast enough for most people. With going into the future, while I understand all the people who are mad about this, there will be a giant outcry. Like, I think it was a meme when Apple ditched the headphone jack. Like, what's next, the charge port? Yeah, no, that's happening. That's not a joke. I can already see people being super duper upset about this, but as Apple has shown time and time again, they make the hard decisions. They make the ones no one's going to make for the sake of a better overall future. It's going to push inductive charging to be better. The idea of over-the-air charging that I'm sure a lot of you guys are suggesting in the comments already, as in they should not remove the port until they can charge the iPhone over the air. Right now, that technology exists, but it's not exactly safe, and the charging is very slow. But the investment in it and the push to get that charging technology better isn't going to come out of nowhere. It's going to come when iPhones, and likely some Android OEMs after Apple does it, start ditching the charge port, and more companies start going, oh wait, if we figure out a way to charge over the air before everyone else, we're gonna make it big time because Apple's already ditched the charging port. That's how wireless will get better. It's a push before we think we're ready, kind of like kids standing at the side of a very cold pool. They don't want to get in, so their friend pushes them in and says, no, you'll enjoy it. They get in. It's freezing at first. You're very uncomfortable, but you start swimming around and you start to say, hey, this isn't that bad. That's where I see the future of portless iPhones going. Except I imagine the outcry and the number of people upset is going to be much, much worse than the headphone jack. That was bad enough. This is going to be even worse. Some people out there are saying like, well, what if I need to hard reset my iPhone? You need a cable or a port for something like that. Think of the Apple Watch. It has a secret port that really only Apple stores can access, but everything else is handled inductively or over Bluetooth. I think Apple experiments a lot with the Apple Watch and are probably looking looking at that as, hey, this can survive without a port, so can the iPhone. I disagree with people who say that via AirPower you'll be able to have some kind of hardware connect to a computer or anything like that. I really don't think so. But of course, this is a very difficult topic for a lot of people to talk about. So let me know what you think of portless iPhones down in the comments below. This is your Apple Sheep here. And before you all go, I just wanted to remind you, while the HomePod giveaway winner is going to be selected on July 15th, we're giving away this 42mm white Nike watch band for any Patreon donor. Doesn't matter how much you donate, as long as you donate something over on Patreon and you comment on the post when I send it out, you are eligible to win this watch band if you have a 42mm Apple Watch. And thank you guys for your support. I really appreciate the Patreon donors. You guys make so much of what we do possible, and to that, I thank you. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.